Ukraine War. Winter can't come quickly enough for Russian forces. Anyone who has lived in Central Europe will never forget the winters. From November to April, you can bet that every time you step out of your usually well-heated apartment building, you'll be walking into a freezer. This, perhaps more than any other factor, has motivated Russia's recent strategic bombing campaign against Ukraine's electricity supply in order to weaken the Ukrainian people's resolve to resist. Hello guys, welcome back to our channel, News Today. In today's video, we will discuss about the winters in Ukraine and how it can affect the Russian army. To know all about it, watch the video till the end. But Russia is running out of precision-guided missiles. Ukraine's defense players are getting better at shooting down Iranian-supplied Shahed-136 drones and other missiles, but far too many of them go through. Ukrainian friends tell me that the mood in Kiev is tense but determined, with a brisk market for small generators to compensate for the expected power outages. It will be extremely difficult for Ukrainian civilians to survive the upcoming long winter. It will, however, be much more difficult for their adversaries' troops. NATO has been planning for months to ensure that their Ukrainian allies have the best possible equipment. Canada has contributed nearly 500 sets of winter gear from their modern, effective military stocks. Other countries, such as the United States and Estonia, had also followed suit. In the meantime, inside an army not known for its upkeep or logistics-related efficiency, but rather for its corrupt practices, Russian troops, including actually drafted troops with only 2 to 3 weeks of coaching, will have to adapt to the climate. Those who are also up against the Ukrainian army that have suffered significant casualties has the upper hand. The crucial constituent materials of war continues to prefer them, as it has done since the beginning of the war. The reality that they're defending, indeed retaking, their homeland is as pertinent now as it was in February. Those who have the advantage in highly precise artillery, tanks, and management morale and coaching. A slow period. All of this is to say that the pace of combat is likely to slow as Ukraine enters winter. The practicalities of staying reasonably warm in temperature changes frequently below -20 degrees Celsius consume a significant amount of time. Winter playing conditions in Central and Eastern Europe are brutal, despite the best gear. To frozen hands, it is indeed difficult to keep or repair unwilling devices, vehicles, spotless rifles, and even keep watch. Trenches are just as important today than they were in 1914 or 1941 for protecting troops from artillery and full automated gunfire. And going to dig them is difficult enough as it is without having to contend with frozen ground. Hundreds of thousands of ground force soldiers from both sides are trying to fight within the same trench warfare and dugouts that their grandfathers and great-grandfathers faced during the 2 world wars. A NATO official in Brussels told reporters that, if you're fighting in those conditions, if your tank is always getting stuck, if it is always throwing a track, and you're constantly cold and wet, it affects what we would call the morale component of an army. Yes, it does. Fighting and moving efficiently in harsh winter conditions like those seen in Ukraine requires a lot of experience and training. In the cold, everything takes longer. This is especially true for the critical component of logistics. Relocating food and ammunition takes more time because trucks start sliding over frozen ground, break down, or become stuck in the snow or mud. Fast-moving, heavily armored warfare becomes significantly more difficult under these conditions. The Ukrainian style of warfare is built around maneuver, which requires speed and agility. Mike Martin, Senior Research Fellow at King's College London, a leading commentator on the Ukrainian war, and a former infantry officer, told me. Both of these are much more difficult to accomplish in the winter. As a result, the conflict's momentum is likely to slow, at least during the deep winter months of December to February. The path to escalation. Till then, Ukrainian troops in the south will press on now to the start, taking the dam and overpass at Novokokova, assuming they are not destructed by Russia first, and progress into the outskirts of Kherson. This will put Crimea in their attraction. In the east, they are likely to keep their positions against Russia's bounty hunter group around Bakhmut, which commands a road that supplies Russia's long-term aims of Sloviansk and Kramatorsk. In the meantime, Russia makes frequent threats of intensification, including the use of nuclear weapons. Most recently, this increase has taken the shape of an absurd claim that Ukraine will indeed take the first stages down that path with a so-called dirty bomb. They are more of a relic of Cold War films than that of any expression of modern military reality as a major threat to life. These are untrustworthy weapons, not weapons of mass destruction, but weapons of mass disruption. as the devastation they leave behind takes years to clean up. Nonetheless, NATO takes these threats seriously. In the meantime, the war continues to escalate, one step at a time. For the very first time throughout 80 years, the 101st Airborne Division of Band & Brothers fame has managed to bring its head office to Europe, along with nearly 5,000 troops. Their head office are very near to the border between Romania and Ukraine. The segment is conducting believable Head Start Romanian troops in preparation for wartime interference. Colonel Edwin Mathides, commander of the 101st 2nd Brigade Combat Team, stated, "We're building objectives to practice against that replicates exactly what's going on in Ukraine." So, whilst also general winter could slow this same operational pace, the stress is hazardously rising on any and all sides. CNN posted an article posting that there are some life-threatening power cuts. Irina Kontradrova, the chief of a perennial center at the hospital in Kharkiv, told CNN that the risk of the rapid blackout is always on her mind, even though reliance on generators is just too risky. Her hospitals work to safeguard medical devices with independent power sources. It may take approximately 15 to 20 minutes from the moment that the electricity turned off, and before it appears from the generator. What shall we do during the 15-20 minutes if the child is not breathing? She explained. There are additional issues she must consider. Because of the continual Russian attacks on the power grid, supply is unexpected. The equipment we work with in neonatal and pediatric intensive care units is affected by even minor voltage fluctuations. The worst thing is when the voltage in the network increases critically, because then the equipment may fail. In case of voltage drops, the equipment may also be turned off, she said. Engineers were working around the clock on repairs at one of the disabled coal-fired power plants CNN visited this week, after Russia attacked the most sensitive part of the facility twice in the previous 3 weeks. Steel and rubber sheeting were being used to replace blown-out windows. Workers dangled from high-voltage cables, reconnecting vital wiring, while technicians scoured the wreckage for salvageable parts. The engineers worked 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but their efforts are consistently interrupted by air raid sirens. Nobody knows how long it will take to restart the plant, but every minute spent in the plant's bunker is time lost. Nothing, according to one of the engineers, would prevent him and his team from resuming operations at the plant. CNN is unable to identify him or the power plant due to security concerns. Putin's game plan is obvious. He wants to make this winter the coldest and darkest in Ukraine's history. Melinda Herring, deputy director of the Atlantic Council's Eurasia Center, told CNN. He will continue to strike infrastructure grid so as to knock out Ukraine's power and heat. His kamikaze drone attacks are meant to break the will of the Ukrainian people and to spark panic, she added. One such volunteer is Vadim Ozdecky. He and his brother had no idea what to do with a small metalworking workshop they inherited in Kiev. As winter approached, they began making small stoves for soldiers on the front lines, with money and materials donated by friends. We have small volumes, this is not a factory. If we try very hard, we can make 40 to 50 such stoves per month, he said. Still, these 40 to 50 stoves mean 500 soldiers staying warm during winter, or maybe even more, he said. So Russian forces are so much ready that for them, winters cannot stop for them. With that, we have come to the end of the video. Thank you for watching, and guys, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, and also press the bell icon so you can watch the upcoming videos. Also, share your thoughts in the comment box.